And so I think this niche was really at the moment where content marketing became a thing, because content marketing in 2010 was nothing. It was corporate communications, SEO, whatever. There was not content marketing. And I really found myself a lot in this niche.
On this episode of the Exit 5 podcast, I spoke with Sara Lattanzio, who's the head of marketing at Stryber. And we got into what it's like to be a marketing leader, specifically a solo marketing leader in today's marketing environment. But where I really think we got into the meat of the episode is in the last 20 minutes.
And I think just when I started owning this niche, this thing with being just a lot more focused, plus picking a trendy topic, I kind of hit the jackpot in the right moment.
That's where we talked about things like her personal content creation strategy on LinkedIn.
I don't post more than 3 times a week in general. Carousels are my format. I really like doing them. And no, I don't have anyone who helps me. It's all me. So many people are like, why don't you make it more scalable? And I'm like, what do I have to scale? The moment that I scale, I'm just selling ad slots, or I'm filling in gaps just to have another content piece going out. And I think that's exactly the point of not doing it,
Sara has over 40,000 followers. She has brand deals with companies like SEMrush. And that's where I think we really tease out a lot of great lessons on creating content that stands out in noisy channels like LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, contrary to other platforms, has a value despite the content that you produce, because it just, I would say, the connection part, which is, I would say, how every mortal uses it, is equally valuable as the content part, and this is honestly why I love it so much,
Would highly recommend you stay all the way to the end, and I hope you enjoy this one.
1, 2, 3, 4. Exit.
All right, I'm here with Sara. Sara, how's it going?
I'm great, and you?
Doing great. Nice to finally put a face to a name. We've been going back and forth on LinkedIn a lot, so it's great to finally meet you and have you here in the flesh somewhat.
True.
Cool. So let's start with kind of big picture. What does your role look like today at Stryber? What are you working on? Give us the picture of who Sara is.
So right now I'm head of marketing at Stryber, which is a venture building and management consulting company for corporates. So right now, one woman show. So really running everything from positioning to content to messaging, really everything. And on the side, I also have some sort of LinkedIn influencerism or whatever you want to call it. So I have my personal brand on LinkedIn, working with several brands. And that's it.
Cool. Love it. Yeah. So I feel like that sets the stage nicely for the type of stuff I want to talk about today. I want to talk about your role as a solo marketing leader, the things you're learning, the ups, the downs, all of that. And then I want to talk about also your personal brand and how you built that up and what that looks like today. So I guess on the topic of being like a solo marketing leader, there's obviously this trend that's emerged recently, which is like a full stack marketer, right? It's like you have to be able to do a bit of everything and use a bunch of tools to be able to achieve what you want to achieve. What does that look like in your day-to-day? Like, how does that translate to what you do? Do you consider yourself a full stack marketer?
Well, who would say no? If you ask like that, but I said it when it was not cool, and I think I said it when it was actually something bad to be ashamed of, because you were not like head of SEO, you were not head of performance marketing, And I think it is actually so important to understand marketing in on a broad picture to make it really work now more than ever. I mean, we really see where Google is going, AI is going, and I think all the signals tells you, it's about the message and it's about the distribution, but it's not just like channel distribution, right? So I think for me, I have done so many things in my career. I started in sales, and so I think working in sales makes you test the power of messaging on people and makes you understand. I was working for Tesla, so a company that I would say didn't need an introduction when I was doing cold calls. And this was the first time when I understood, wow, it's so different when people are already bought on the brand bought in on the brand. And then basically being in-house later, I went back to marketing because obviously I knew I was a marketer at heart. And so I did everything from, performance marketing to, something more like content, brand, email, all of these things. And I think now it's also a reason why you can be a solo person. I mean, obviously, when you say solo person, you're never doing everything, like it's clear I'm not a designer, I'm not like an SEO specialist, but I think you know how the pieces fit together and you are able to create great briefings. And so that freelancers don't need to, suck up all your time and come 20,000 times to ask you, oh, but I'm missing this, or you have unrealistic expectations, of how long
Yeah.
things are going to take. And in this way, it can work. Obviously, with AI, a lot of the things are simplified and you can easily create mock-ups, of things that you need and to create better briefings, as I said. And then I'm gonna stop rambling. But I think another
No.
important thing is really, obviously, when you're kind of in a senior role like me, head of marketing, C-level, VP level, whatever that is, I think a healthy company wants you to also challenge the business strategy, right? And educate on how to translate business strategy into marketing goals. But you also need to be able to say if the business strategy maybe doesn't make any sense at all in your opinion, right?
No, that's a great answer. Yeah. Yeah. Part of me just feels like a full stack marketer is just like another word for a marketing generalist who just gets shit done. It's like I mean, I've been a marketing generalist my whole career, not by design like you. I just have always been dabbling. I never really specialized. I know you had like a stint where maybe you're more specialized in content, but like I just never had that same experience. And I'm really grateful. But for 5 years, the first 5 years of my career, I beat myself up over it because, at that time, it was like the cool thing was to be the specialist, right? It was you were on LinkedIn talking about a specific thing, or you were inside of a company and you're just crushing it with one specific channel. And, companies paid good money for that expertise too. So I always bit myself up over it. But now I'm at a point where it's so much easier to know where to place the chips and where to press the gas. Like even with AI, like, I notice when I'm interacting with it, it's like the only reason I'm able to do and interact with it the way I am is because I understand all the pieces. So when I ask it to do certain things or ask it to fill in gaps, it's because I know where the gaps are that like maybe I would have had to go to a specialist to fill, but now I can just ask AI to fill those gaps. So I definitely feel you about the importance of like having that broad perspective. And then the other piece I brought up, you brought up, which I really liked, is like just the being able to challenge the business strategy and connect what you're doing to goals. It's obviously like, AI and everything makes it easier to like move faster, but like you still need to understand why you're moving as fast as you are. You still need to understand the goals of the business. You still need to be creative with your ideas, right? It's just like kind of the accelerant to what we're doing, but it's not actually like coming up with the recipe also.
And you need to be able to understand if you can actually go to market with this
Yeah,
business strategy.
totally. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So I want to double click on, your life as a sole marketing leader. You talked a bit about like obviously, sole marketing leader, just because you're solo marketing leader, it doesn't mean you're doing everything per se. So today, are you working with like contractors, freelancers? Tell me about that. And then like also obviously you're using AI and technology, but like tell us, exactly like what you're using and what you're getting done with that stuff.
Sure. So yeah, I mean, we have a creative outsource team. So we have copywriter, designers, video person, very good video person. Um, a perk of my company is that since they are in the venture building business, I don't know how much familiar you are with that, but it means basically building startups for corporates, right? And so it means on those projects, we have designers, UX people, growth marketers. So obviously, they are an external project, but they can support me as well, right? So a lot of internal resources can support internal marketing as well. We have an agency that helps us, for example, with LinkedIn ads. And I mean, we don't have anyone for the strategic parts, that's kind of on me, obviously. And I mean, even, short copy and all of these things, it's on me. I try always to write as much as I can just because I love it. And another channel that we really, really banking on, also because I'm biased, is obviously LinkedIn personal branding. So I'm trying to push everyone to, create the personal brand on LinkedIn, stay on track. And, obviously I cannot do it all the time, but I've also, ghost written and provided, I would say at least like a structure for posts, because I think I always say, make it yours, and I think it really works because people are like, oh my God, blank screen dilemma, what am I going to do? And then this already gives them the safety, that it's easier, I would say. And then something that I have done recently that was, so to say, not really in my job description is also, tapping a bit my feet into the whole outbound topic. Because if you think about it, I started understanding what it means, this debate that a lot of people lately are talking about, that SDR, BDRs, whatever, should report to marketing. And I was always like, that makes zero sense. But then actually you think it makes a lot of sense, because if you are, the head of the messaging, and outbound is just another channel, right? So who better can control it that the marketing leader, who actually does the ads, does the landing pages, the content. And so lately I've kind of steered several outbound campaigns. And yeah, I think that's pretty much the picture of you know Stryber. But obviously, it's, as I said, it's a service business. So I think obviously if we would be like a product business, there would be an additional layer of complexity and other type of tools and agencies.
Right, right. Okay, cool. Yeah, the outbound piece is interesting. Right? Is that like cold calling or cold emailing, bit of
No, no, no,
both?
no. Cold emailing, cold DMing on LinkedIn. But I really think that cold is gonna work less and less. I mean, we already see the diminishing returns. I mean, I don't even open when I see like emails from an address that I don't know. I mean, even if sometimes I open and the copy is great, I would never reply. We are at a point where it's too saturated, I think. And I mean, we also have now the tools to at least go a bit deeper into the signals, and at least having something like warm, like connecting with people at least before. Don't try to pitch them, maybe cultivate a relationship, ask for intros. Yeah, so I tend more to go that direction.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel you. Like I'm the same. If I get a random cold email, like there are a lot of times I'm not even gonna read the pitch if I don't know who's emailing me. I'm just so allergic to it. And maybe that's my, I don't know, skeptical brain, but I feel like you and I are the same in that sense. Like, and this comes back to the original thing you were talking about. I don't know if we were recording. I think we were, when you talked about your time at Tesla doing cold calls, and obviously you didn't need to introduce Tesla probably to at least like 99% of people. Um, so that's the piece too of like where marketing plays into outbound too. It's like when you have the brand, it's so much easier to do outbound. Whereas if you don't, it's a slog. And I know because I've done cold calling before, and I remember having to explain what we do, the company does all the time in every single call. And it's another hurdle, and it makes it, the trust factor is already so low when the person picks up the phone, that you're kind of just fighting uphill until maybe they give you some like flat runway. So I feel you. Would you say like that's also a struggle with your outbound, like it's just like brand awareness in your space, or are you guys like pretty well known and it's not that much of an issue?
As I said, I really try not to go cold too much. And if we go
Mm,
cold, it's always for a very specific ask. It's really, for example, we have a LinkedIn Live, or we want to organize a roundtable with those people with social proof. So if we are not known, the situation or connections, people that will be there, or maybe the place where the event is hosted, gives that social proof that, okay, oh, they're actually here and I don't know them, right? So yeah, so I think that's what makes the factor, that the difference, because I really believe there is no chance otherwise, when if you go completely cold.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. So you're not like just going asking for a
No,
30-minute demo type thing.
no,
Like it's more
no,
of a, yeah, okay,
no.
cool. I like that.
And
Nice.
especially with services, it's even worse, so to say, because I would say, I mean, I think by now also with products, because the amount of pitches I get now, since basically there are AI tools for everything, like it's almost out of decency. But especially with services, there is no coffee chat. I mean, the coffee chat is already the pitch, so to say, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So who would jump on a coffee chat, especially if they don't want it themselves,
Totally. Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Cool. Okay, another piece I wanted to touch upon that you talked about is like, you still are the writer for short copy, and you said you still try to write as much as possible. So when you say that, does that mean like just Sarah and a piece of digital paper, or is that with AI? Like with like because I like your writing. I like your writing on LinkedIn. So I'm curious how you're keeping up that skill and keeping it sharp.
Well, in general, I think AI for me has been great at. I mean, I'm not a native English person, right? So I do a lot of typos. I do maybe some wording that is weird, and I think when you're writing on your LinkedIn profile, I think that's part of the brand. That's totally fine. I think people also like that I'm Italian and have this accent, right? But when you're writing for a brand, it should be a bit different. So definitely, I would say correcting, making sure you don't make typos, and also maybe some wording, that I would have not used, has been super, super helpful, or maybe another thing that's really, really cool is that sometimes I just, I use, for example, auto dictate, kind of voice recording, whatever, voice dictation. And then, you have kind of this blurb of words, and then you're like, okay, can you structure now a post out of this? And then, maybe make sure that in the heading, in the hook, there is this, and make sure that the closing is about this. But you can literally word vomit, and it means that you have all the authenticity. I mean, obviously, you need to have a strong idea. It's not that you just ramble endlessly without any connection and then, hey, make me a post out of this, right? But let's say you have the structure of the post in mind, and you want to have a storyline and, make it concise. Then actually it is better. The more information you give, the better the thing can consolidate and make a good post out of it. And then, I mean, I always fine tune, I always polish, I always remove the M dashes. Very sorry, people are having this argument on LinkedIn about the M dashes. Yes, it is a sign of AI by now. So, you know, um, but it saves a lot of time, definitely. And then also, through all my sponsors on LinkedIn, I also, I'm always testing AI tools and whatever. And for example, there is a tool, and it's not sponsored, like Tofu. I'm sure there are alternatives, but it's really fantastic how it can really repurpose long form content in a lot of different ways. And, you know,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's funny. The piece about the M dash is funny. I used to use them sometimes in my writing because I had like an old boss who was like, this was like my first year in marketing. She was like, yeah, like you should add some of these like M dashes. I'm like, what's an M dash? She showed me and I was like, oh, this is amazing. Like at that point I thought I was okay. Like I'm a top marketer now that I know M dashes and I use them. I know how to use them. And then when AI started using it, like not like I did a lot, but I was like, now I just have to remove it because I feel like people are gonna think it's AI, even if it is or isn't. It's just like I don't want them in my copy anymore because I'm scared of being called out.
yeah, but sometimes they also don't make any sense. I think sometimes it uses it instead of commas, and so.
Yeah, it's funny because I've always used Grammarly. I've always liked to just like to pick up on like maybe where to add a comma, or sometimes I weird like I write a sentence like super weird and then like it just like rephrases it so nicely. So I've always used Grammarly since like my university days. And whenever I like use AI to write the first draft, then I put it in a Google Doc. Grammarly always comes in and like cleans up every M dash with a a comma. So that's when I know it's like none of these are in the right place. Like if we're talking grammatically.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
Okay. Love it. Love it. And yeah, the piece about the voice notes, I do that too. Like if my brain is kind of mushy, or sometimes I could just talk about my ideas better than I could like type them out. I just yesterday I literally talked for like 8 minutes, and I was like at the end of it, I was like, I don't even know if it was still recording, but it was. And then it helped me like structure like a big slide deck. And I was like, wow, this is like incredible. So I definitely have used that hack too. Okay, cool. One other thing I want to talk about is strategy. Setting strategy as a solo marketing leader. That's something that nothing is going to replace as of right now. It's a big part of your role and any solo marketer's role. Like, talk me through how you're setting strategy, whether it's on a yearly or quarterly, monthly basis. Like, who are you coordinating with? Are you syncing the strategy with the product roadmap? Like, what does that look like?
So, as I said, we don't have a product, so it's a service business. But I think the planning side for us is more on the verticals. So, as a service business, we focus on specific verticals, and this can change quarterly or every half a year, for example. And so I think for us, I think we plan mostly in 6 months sprint, because I mean, honestly, you need time to let also the positioning sink in and reach the people. We have a business development team with the BDRs and the kind of, we don't have salespeople, so we have, instead of account executives, we have like the partners and biz dev. Then the CEO, and then we have also somebody who is responsible, kind of my boss now, for both sales and marketing. And so, yeah, I think we coordinate mainly outbound campaigns with the marketing roadmap, which is, content. And then, I always start really from the perceptions, in a sense. What is the business offering for every vertical that we tackle? What do we offer? Who are those people? So kind of the positioning, but industry specific, right? So because in the end, when you work for a company that targets different verticals, you need to have, I think, even more than the overall positioning of the company, it is really like almost the product positioning and the vertical positioning, so to say. And then I think once this is done, we can really activate it across pretty much both sales and marketing. We have weekly syncs where we, share feedback on, how the marketing activities are going. If it's an event, we see how the signups are going. If it's I don't know, gated assets, we see how many qualified leads are coming in. Don't even get me started if the MQL is that or not. But obviously, if you have sales cycles of years or months, you cannot be like, how much pipeline did marketing bring this month? Doesn't work like that, right? But I think it's very important to still don't put every downloadable, like every person who puts an email address, into a bucket, right? So if honestly all the people who download something worth downloading are your potential clients, that's a great sign, right? And that's definitely something that then BizDev can take and invite to roundtables, invite to events, connect on LinkedIn. That's really how a business like ours works. And on the other side, they share, for example, feedback from outreach, from outbound campaigns, from prospect conversations, which I feedback into the content and marketing strategy.
Got it. Okay, cool. Makes sense. Sweet. All right. I want to shift gears a bit. I want to talk about just high level. I want to talk about content. I feel like are you previous head of content? Is that your last role, or am I imagining things?
No, I was always also doing this, but I was also freelancing at some point, only with content, doing content strategy. So
Cool. Okay. So it's definitely, like, you would say, one of your strong suits from a marketing perspective.
excuse me?
You would say it's definitely one of your like strong suits.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. So I want to talk about that more high level. Where do you see, I forgot my question. I had a question that I was supposed to say. I forgot it. What was I going to say?
Content. I was not
Content.
head of content. You wanted to ask about content. Where I see content going with AI. I don't know.
There you go. That's it. Yeah, you got it. Because I was like, I didn't mean to ask you if you were previous head of content. I forgot it, and that like tripped up my question. So
Don't worry.
I'll just start from there. Cool. So content is obviously a specialty of yours. High level, where do you see content going with the role that AI is playing?
I don't know. I mean, I really don't know at the moment. It's super hard to predict. So I have a few ideas. One is that it tends to go in the direction of outbound, what we said before, kind of it's so saturated that by default it gets ignored. And I think that's already happening, unfortunately. On the other hand, I also think that contrary to outbound, I mean, nobody wants to be sold in their email or in their DMs, never. I don't think there was ever a time where somebody really wanted this, while content, obviously people consume content all day every day. The majority of people are consumers, and this trend is not going to fade. And also, while outbound, everyone can literally create copy and blast it to the entire world, not many people can execute content marketing. Actually, I would say just maybe 10% of companies, if at all, can execute content marketing the way it should be executed, in a way that it's omnichannel and it's worth consuming. So I think there will be saturation, but there will be also opportunity for people using AI just to scale it to the right point, though. Because I also believe that all this scale thing is going to hit a massive cap. And people then will be like, you know what? Maybe sending a newsletter every day annoys people, And maybe a person who really likes our newsletter is really waiting, like we used to wait for the season 2 of our favorite series, and we were like, I need to wait another year. I can't believe it. Maybe once a month is really, really better, also not to exhaust people.
I like that point, like just reducing the cadence.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, whenever I see an email every day in my inbox, I immediately, I just cannot. It's,
Yeah, you kind of start to disassociate over time. It's like there's just too much now that you almost feel like you can't really get caught up with what they're saying, and it's easier to just ignore them. And it's like if they come back to me, then it was meant to be. It was fate.
You got it.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel you. I feel like the playbook of like what a good B2B content strategy was created. I mean, I started seeing, companies doing it around, I want to say 2019, 2020. It definitely was there before that, but this rise of like, creating a long form piece of content like a podcast and repurposing the clips to LinkedIn and talking about a lot of stuff on LinkedIn. And that still works today, but it's just like there was this gold rush to it, and now that's like the play for everybody. And it just feels like as a consumer of content, it's becoming harder and harder to even keep up with a lot of the stuff that people are saying. And you almost by default just have to pick like your 3 to 5, if even, whether it's companies or people, and those are the only people you listen to. So if you're a company or individual, like it's so competitive if you're playing this same game, which it's hard to play a different game, but it's just so competitive, and it's so hard to like just be in the mix, in somebody's mix. And if you're new to things, like even if your content is really good, it's still difficult because there's already companies and people that have been playing there for so long and have that trust.
I agree. And I think because everyone is like, oh, every channel is dead. But I mean, it's a bit like saying you're tired of something that has just existed all the time. Are you tired of people? Because it's people, they exist, they are people, So it's about being, I think, mixing the ingredients differently, So for example, influencer marketing combined with company content. I mean, I saw today a friend of mine that launched YouTube channel with a brand, and they're doing it together, So that's definitely different. And also then the brand benefits from basically a double marketing channel that brings attention to their content, and it gives also a level of authenticity that by default will avoid to be in this company propaganda mode, and people are not feeling like they're following a brand channel. They feel like they're following a community, kind of a peer mostly.
Yeah. That's a good take. This has been talked about for the last couple of years now, but people are so much more likely to want to pay attention to a person. And even if, somebody's like producing content on the company page, I still think there needs to be that human face as part of it. Like when it's just your company and like you're saying words to your audience, but it's coming from, your logo, it just doesn't hit the same. Even me, like on YouTube, for example, I'm a big YouTube person, and like I obviously follow people, but if I did follow like a company page, I still want to see like the same person as the spokesperson and the one always talking to me. Like that's only going to happen more and more. So I think that's like a really big piece of all this too.
Looks
Yeah,
like
and
we share a lot of ideas.
yeah, absolutely. And YouTube is another one where I think like there's a really big opportunity, especially for B2B. Um, I'm biased because I watch YouTube all the time, but like it's just the thing I like about it is sure there's like the shorts where you can just keep on scrolling through and like companies can easily get some mind share through shorts. But in the event where you as a company or individual come out with like a really good 20-30 minute video, now you have someone's attention for like a very long period of time. It's almost like a Netflix show. And I just think on LinkedIn, like it's almost impossible to replicate that because it's so like you could be reading a post, but it's so easy to just like scroll to the next thing or like the next post to have already caught your attention. Whereas like YouTube, like it does a good job, but like if somebody really is interested in going deep, they can. Whereas LinkedIn is just it's harder to do. Like they almost have to go off platform to your newsletter or company website.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. So this kind of brings me to one of the last themes I want to talk about, which is the content you create personally. I've seen you on LinkedIn for a while, and I think one thing that I've really appreciated about your content is just how much effort you seem to put into every post. Now, I don't know what's in the mix. I don't know if you're doing all that. I don't know if you have help doing it. I don't know if you want to share your secrets, but I've always appreciated how much effort goes into each post. Specifically, you do these carousels that are like just really, really detailed. They have not only a lot of like good written and words on it, but just like a good creative visual aspect to it that I just haven't seen a lot of people do well. Um, so yeah, I want to talk about like where did it all start? Like when did you start with LinkedIn and what was the initial? Was it like you were doing visual stuff from the jump, or was it more of like you just typing and sharing your work?
Well, the beginning was, first of all, my background was that I had a very famous blog on Tumblr. So kind of this online thing was not completely new to me. Kind of, I did it once, let's see if I can do it twice. But since basically it was an art blog where I never shared my name, or, it was also very new, this whole monetizing blogs, blah, blah. Tumblr kind of went under at some point or was not so relevant anymore. And so I kind of lost all of it, kind of I missed the moment. And so for me, the combination with LinkedIn, where it's really me, and it's also, I think, LinkedIn, contrary to other platforms, has a value despite the content that you produce, because it just, I would say, the connection part, which is, I would say, how every mortal uses it, is equally valuable as the content part, and this is honestly why I love it so much, because I don't have an ambition to be an influencer. So I was kind of a solo marketer another time, and I was like, yeah, I'm learning so much. It's the first time that I'm like, in this position, and I think, wow, it seems like people are really doing this LinkedIn with content. Maybe let's give it a shot if it's a fit, right? I tried before on Instagram, but it was not a channel fit for me, and and so I don't know, at the beginning I threw just spaghetti at the wall. I remember my first post was literally, oh, we just rebranded, and then I started talking about productivity and best advertising examples, literally all the world and whatever marketing, and at the beginning it was also very hard, I think. I mean, very, there was there was not much competition on LinkedIn posting original content, so even just being somebody who posts about marketing was already a niche in a way. And then what happened is just that I kept doing this. I mean, I took it very seriously. So I knew that since I've done it before, the consistency is the most important ingredient. And you see the audience is growing, people start noticing, podcast here, blah, blah, blah. And then I just kept doing it. I think I evolved. At some point I niched down into content. I started, having requests for freelancing about content marketing. And so I think this niche was really at the moment where content marketing became a thing, because content marketing in 2010 was nothing. It was corporate communications, SEO, whatever. There was not content marketing. And I really found myself a lot in this niche because I think content marketing is a lot of things. It's strategy, it's communication, it's writing, it's graphic, it's performance. It's a bit of everything, right? And so I was like, yeah, that's literally me. That's my niche, and I didn't even know there was a name for it. And I think just when I started owning this niche, this thing with being just a lot more focused, plus picking a trendy topic, I kind of hit the jackpot in the right moment. Because it was also a moment where there were not many people talking about content marketing. And another thing is that I want to share is that I think there are a lot of bad wolves on LinkedIn in general, right? I mean, I think also you earn the audience that you deserve. I mean, especially now with AI, we see that a lot, like this get rich quick and hacks and message this, I'll give you that. And people who obviously with these tactics make, I don't know, 3,000 followers overnight. But I really think that people who are serious about, business in whatever way that means, they know this is BS, right? And I think I have definitely not 100,000 followers, but I think the people who follow me trust me a lot, trust that what I say is unbiased, that even if I take, I don't know, money from sponsorships, I'm not pushing down a product that people, that I would never use. And I think that's also where you understand, okay, the retention and the engagement is a lot more valuable than the numbers of growth themselves.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think like there's a couple things there, but one is I like that you talked about, well, I feel like your content personality, your personality specifically comes through in your content, which I think is really interesting and not always easy to do. How have you let that shine through? Like how did you make that happen? I know it's not an easy answer, but I think that's something that a lot of people, like when I'm scanning the feed, I just noticed that you can tell when people are like trying to be that influencer type, and it's kind of always like gives you the ick a little bit. But in your case, it's like you're just you on this platform that has good distribution attached to it. So I don't know, how do you do that?
That's very nice. That's a very nice
Yeah.
compliment. But the reality is that I never tried. So it's very simple. And I feel now that you talk with me the first time, you notice that it's just me. And I think I'm just a very opinionated person. I think I know how to communicate a concept. In a sense, you can say the same thing in 20 different ways. And I think I try always to strike this balance between sassiness and honesty, but also being very, fact based. I don't bash stuff, or I don't talk bad about stuff just to rack up likes. I always have some arguments for it, and I think that's what resonates with people.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I agree. Do you have like, and by the way, I think this is an important topic for B2B marketers overall. Not so much just like how to go viral on LinkedIn or how to grow LinkedIn following, it's back in the theme of what we talked about, where it's like, I just think humans, individuals will have a much better chance in 2025 and forward of building brands than company logos and faceless brands. So I think even if you are a B2B marketer in-house, I think that you will need to understand how to bring someone in your company to the limelight, whether that's you, whether that's the CEO. So I think this is an important topic for that reason. Just an aside. But getting back to your strategy specifically, like, do you have a calendar of stuff that you're going to share on LinkedIn? Like, how far out are you scheduling your stuff? Like, what? Like, talk me through a bit of that part.
So I don't post more than 3 times a week in general, and I try. Carousels are my format. I really like doing them, and no, I don't have anyone who helps me. It's all me. It's me, my personality designer. So I have 9 personalities. One is a designer, apparently. And I think that's the thing. So many people are like, why don't you make it more scalable? And I'm like, what do I have to scale? The moment that I scale, I'm just selling ad slots, or I'm filling in gaps just to have another content piece going out. And I think that's exactly the point of not doing it. So I spend basically my Saturday morning writing. So even afternoon, let's be honest. So it really means that it's a big sacrifice, because it means, especially in summer when everybody's like having fun, you're there writing, because I've always worked 100%, right? So and then I schedule more or less. I don't schedule. I know more or less what I'm gonna post 1 week in advance. Obviously, when I work with sponsors, it's a bit more rigid, in the sense that you have a specific date where you need to let some posts out, etc. But also there, I really, I have, for example, Semrush. I've been working with them for over a year, so kind of we have a regular collaboration. But there is just an amount of sponsor posts in my books. I don't want to be an advertising billboard, and so I also pick up just a few brands I really, really like working with, where it's literally I would produce the same content, tool agnostic, but okay, then I'm going to use your tool because I think it's a great tool, right? So that's for me how I pick the sponsors. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. So it's definitely not, I would say, what somebody, it's not a strategy that's overly complicated. I have a Google Docs where I dump ideas, and sometimes I have an idea, just write it. But it works for me, and honestly, I think I wouldn't change it.
Yeah. No, yeah, I love it. I feel like to prep for this interview, I just went to your LinkedIn profile and was just like reading through more of your posts. And one thing I had to like always double check is like, is this a sponsored post or not? Like I couldn't always tell, which is really, really great. I mean, that you're doing exactly what you're supposed to do. Like I even find for me on LinkedIn, if I talk about Exit 5 in a way that is like a clear promotion of it, or like not even a clear promotion. Like maybe I'm just like, we're doing this crazy live event on X, Y, and Z, and you all should be there. Like even that itself, like will not perform well if I don't like bury the fact that it is related to our event so deeply inside of it. And I think that's something we do really well. I think that's a good like meta marketing lesson of like, you can create really good content that is related to a brand or tool without making it so obvious. So yeah, I guess like what's your strategy there? Like, you're working with a brand like SEMrush and they want you to promote a specific feature or something, a new product they launch. Like, what's next from there? Like, how are you making that into something that is interesting to consume while subtly plugging a tool?
Well, first of all, I think what you said is very important. I think I never did. Yeah, I did product marketing when I was, working at a startup, but I think this is a very big product marketing experience for me, because that's exactly what a product marketer does, right? And you use the product, you test the product, and it's not always like that. that they tell, like that companies tell me we have this feature, push it out. I mean, sometimes they have a product launch and I support, but sometimes there is a lot of flexibility. I think probably also because, they understand that they don't need to hold my hands, that I'm kind of literally your ICP. I can find my way and tell you what's good about the product myself. And I'm not talking about SEMrush in specific. I'm just talking about brands in general. So I would say I pick a use case that I'm familiar with, and then literally I ask myself how I would use it. How I navigate this use case. For example, if the whole point is like, I don't know, how do we get better visibility on LLMs? We're all pretty scared of what's going on, So I poke my own pains, so to say. I also don't put any logos. I mean, because what is the point of putting your logo on my carousel? Very sorry. I mean, I have your CTA, obviously, I'm driving the traffic, and it's much more important to show you the interface paired with what you can do with this product, right? With how you can go from this pain point at the beginning to solving it and really the end product. So for me, it's also always important to close the loop, and not to start by defaulting into click this button, there is this feature, by the way. It's not the time and place here. It's really like to give you a very practical solution to a problem, and you can execute it yourself. You can even execute it with another product, for what I am concerned. And I think that is what works. And that's, in a nutshell, I know it was mind-blowing for me too, but how good marketing works down the line, And I think this makes you, and I mean, I also know how much demos my posts bring to the companies I work with. So it really means that people want something they can run with. And also, if you provide value, they will get hooked on your brand.
Yeah. That's a great point. I find it too, like in the Exit 5 community, we obviously put out a lot of content, and whenever we're sharing like those specific tactical examples, that's when people are really like, whoa, like I love this, or like, give me more of this. It's always that stuff that stands out the most. It's not to say like those more theoretical high level posts don't have a time and place. They do, obviously. But it's like you can almost guarantee, you can almost bank on, if you're giving if you're giving something to the audience that they can just like kind of pick up and drop into their own company, more or less, like those are always winners.
I think with topics that maybe are more abstract, you need to follow the same logic. You cannot just be like inspirational things, but really more, I don't know, if you're giving advice on, marketing careers, then, I don't know, give a list of questions to ask when you apply for a job, stuff like this.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it doesn't always need to be that linear of a product use case. It's just like something useful. And then, the very last piece is, I think a big part of it too is you just know the audience. You're a marketer. You understand. You're in the game. You're in the space. That's something that, if you're going to work for a company that is nothing related to what you know, makes it more difficult, and you need to somehow extract that out of it, right? Sara, this has been great. I've been following you for a while. I always interact with your stuff. I think you're one of the best content marketers on LinkedIn. I really, really appreciate what you put out. I think it's so different and unique, and I think that's rare today. This conversation is great. I felt like I could have kept going, especially on the content and LinkedIn and uniqueness rabbit hole. That's a really interesting angle that you have for all that. But that's it. I really appreciate it. And, I appreciate you giving the time and all this great information to our audience.
Thanks to you. Really love the combo. And we can always, make a second round instead of a 2-hour podcast.
That's it. Sounds good. We'll do a 1-year recap. All right, Sara, take it easy. Thanks.